What's going on, my boys? It's Nick coming at you today on the channel for the very first time is Krawler Ninja. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly. Krawler Ninja is the deck that I'm bringing to you today, and this is post Darkwing Blast. So this will be using the brand new Ninja support out of that booster set. I couldn't be more happy to bring this this deck list to you guys today. Krawler is actually something I've wanted to bring to the channel for months, literal months. I've been working on Krawler in the background behind the scenes for a long time, testing different variants, and to be honest, I just wasn't happy with the things I was coming up with. They were cool, some of them worked, but it just didn't have the push that I wanted it to have. But now that we have the brand new Ninjas out of Darkwing Blast, I think Krawler Ninjas is actually a very, very fun deck that not only can put out some incredible boards, but just can steamroll so many different decks with all the different removal options they have now and the swarming that they have with the help of the Ninja monsters. So with that being said, for those of you new to the channel, my name is Nick. We do live duel videos, deck profiles, other things that are Yu-Gi-Oh related for more off-the-wall and rogue style of decks. If those are things that you like and you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to please subscribe down below. We are working our way to 1,000 subscribers, and I cannot get there without your guys' help. And yeah, with that being said, we're going to jump right into this profile today. So we're going to start things off here with triple copies of Krawler Soma. Soma is brand new out of Power of the Elements, the previous booster set. And Krawler Soma basically took a deck that was pretty much like set one pass and turned it into like a very cool like combo mid-range centric strategy. What Krawler Soma does, I will say that he's the only Krawler that is not a flip, which is kind of interesting. He's level 6, Earth Insect, 2000 attack, 2500 defense, and you can target a face-up monster you control to special summon the Krawler Soma from your hand. Then, you can change the targeted monster's battle position to face-down defense. So basically, he can target any face-up monster you control, and that's what I like about it too, is he doesn't have to target a Krawler. It's any face-up monster. You book that monster face-down, special the Soma. For pretty much free, all you needed was any other monster on field. Then, while Soma's in the field, during your main phase, you can reduce his level by 2 or 4. And if you do, special summon Krawler monsters with different names from your hand, deck, or graveyard, whose total levels equal the amount reduced, in face-up or face-down defense position. You can only use each effect once per turn. Krawler Soma speeds up this deck so much, and it is exactly what the deck needed. On top of the fact that Krawler Soma's effects are so insane, he's a free extender and puts out up to 2 more bodies alongside of him, in addition to the card that you had already controlled that you booked to special him in the first place. He speeds up this deck like no other, and the fact that his effects do not lock you into insects or crawlers specifically is absolutely insane. Krawler Soma is the best crawler monster, hands down. No questions asked. This card is absolutely cracked. So moving on, we are going to be walking into the smaller crawler monsters, the flip ones. So we're on 2 copies of Receptor and 2 copies of Spine, and we're going to talk about these 2 together first. So all of these are flip monsters, and I'll say moving forward, all of the flip monsters, with the exception of a few, have the same secondary effect. And that secondary effect is, if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 2 crawlers with different names from your deck in face-down defense. So all the flip crawlers, for the most part, have that ability, where if they're removed by an opponent's card effect while they were face-up, they float into 2 differently named crawlers from deck to your field in face-down defense position. So they kind of like multiply themselves, which is cool. The drawback is that they have to be face-up in order for that effect to trigger. So if your opponent outs them while they're down, like by some kind of a card effect, they won't, unfortunately, be able to trigger that effect. So that's the only drawback, but for the most part, it's a relatively easy workaround. But like I said, most of the low-level flip monster crawlers have that same effect. But their first effects, which are their flip effects themselves, are what make them unique. So in the case of Receptor, you can add a crawler monster from your deck to your hand when he's flip face-up, and then Krawler Spine allows you to target a monster on the field and destroy that monster. So pretty much a Commander Debug, and then Receptor being a Rhoda. Receptor's nice because you can, if you opened like Soma and Receptor, for example, you can normal Receptor, use Soma, flip the Receptor down, special Soma, go down your Soma combo, and then later when you flip Receptor back up, whether it's battled into or you flip it on your next turn, it gets you another search to potentially search for another Soma to do it all over again. So really, really strong there. So Receptor is a Rhoda, Spine is a Man-Eater Bug. Two really, really good flip effects on those cards. Then we got one copy of Axon, one Glial, one Dendrite, one Ranvier, to round out our flip monster crawlers, or flip, what am I trying to say? Our flip monsters that are crawlers. These are one-ofs simply because utility-wise, like, they're good, but they're not as good or needed as cards like Spine or Receptor specifically. Axon, again, keep in mind they all have the same secondary effect, where when they're outed by an opponent's card effect while they're face up, they float into two different name crawlers from the deck. Keep that in mind, it's not up to 2, it has to be 2 from deck. So there are instances where if it's pretty late game, you may not even be able to trigger that effect because you must special 2 crawlers from deck. If you don't have 2 crawlers in deck, then the effect can't be activated. But anyway, so that's all the same secondary effect across the board here. Axon, he can target a spell trap in the field and destroy it. So kind of like Spine except for spells and traps, so really cool there. Then you have Glial. When he's flipped, you can special summon a crawler monster from your hand or graveyard in face-up attack or face-down defense position, except himself. So Glial is nice because if it's mid to late game, you can go Glial and then start reviving some of your crawlers that were already spent. Dendrite is a Foolish Burial upon flip. You can send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. Keep in mind it's any monster, so that is very, very strong. And then Ranvier here, as a flip summon, you can target up to 2 crawler monsters in your graveyard, add them to your hand. So Ranvier helps recur some of your resources mid to late game to help grab some of your cards back out of the grave into your hand. So those are the small crawlers that we are running. Then we're on the big boy himself, Deus X-Crawler, because you're about to take a deuce on the meta. Anyway, he's a level 9 Earth Insect Flip Monster, 2,000 attack, 3,000 defense. Do you guys like skill drain? Do you guys like floodgating your opponent and prevent them from activating monster effects? Because I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly what Deus X-Crawler does. He just says no to your opponent. Deus X-Crawler is very interesting because he is one of the handful of cards in the game that actually can activate its effects while it is face down. And what I mean by that is Deus X-Crawler has a really cool effect where when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this face down monster, quick effect, you can change this card to face up defense position, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So like I said, he's one of the few cards in the game that can actually activate while face down, but if your opponent targets this with anything while it's face down, as a quick effect, it immediately flips itself face up in defense and then negates that activation and destroys the card that tried to target this while it was face down. Really, really strong. But while this card is flipped face up, while it's in the monster zone, you negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. It's literally skill drain on legs. It's nuts. Like if your opponent tried to deal with this and target it while it was down, it flips itself up, negates that card, destroys that card. Now that it's flipped, it's your opponent's basically floodgated under a skill drain, which is really, really insane. And it's a one-sided skill drain on top of it, which is nuts. But also it works the same way, like if you flip it up yourself, while it's flipped, or once it's flipped and it remains face up on field, your opponent's locked under that effect. Now, it does have a third effect where it floats. Basically, if it's destroyed on the field by battle or card effect, I get to add a monster from deck to hand, a level 9 monster specifically, with a different original type and attribute than this card. That actually does come up for something we're playing in the side, but we'll get to that once we get to the side deck. But overall, Deus X-Crawler is a really strong one-of to have. But now moving into the ninjas. We are playing 2 copies of Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo. Hanzo's been around the game for a long, long time. You may or may not have heard of him, probably because he's a ninja and he's just that awesome. But he is a level 4 Dark Warrior, 1800 attack, 1000 defense. This card does not have once per turn clauses anywhere on it, and we love that. When this card is normal summoned, you can add a ninjutsu art card from the deck to your hand. So it's a plus on summon. Then, when this card is flip or special summoned specifically, you can add a ninja monster from the deck to your hand. So overall, Hanzo's he lets you add resources from deck to hand, non once per turn, so very easily abusable card. We play him here at 2 in the deck. But now moving on to the brand new ninjas out of Darkwing Blast, we are on 2 Kagero, the Cannon Ninja. This, again, is brand new out of Darkwing Blast. He is a fire level 4 warrior, 1600 attack, 2000 defense. And if this card is normal summoned, special summoned, or flipped face up, you can special summon a ninja monster from your hand or graveyard in face down defense position, except a copy of himself. So really cool card. If it's a starter, it just helps you get another body, a ninja onto your side of the field. Granted, it isn't face down defense, but it helps set up plays for the following turn. And then while this card is in the graveyard, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets exactly 1 ninja card or exactly 1 face down defense position monster I control, quick effect, you can special summon this card in face down defense position, and if you do, return the targeted card to the hand. So he helps like dodge like certain targeting removal. Really cool card to just pop out of the grave, something your opponent like won't be expecting. If they're trying to like remove a threat, it can pretty much dodge the removal and then replace itself with him, which is nice. And given that he has 2000 defense, it's just a bit difficult for your opponent to clear. And then when he's flipped, he can still special summon another ninja from the grave or hand and face down defense as well. So that's really strong. But moving on, we're on 2 copies of Mitsu, the Insect Ninja. This card is honestly one of the best ninja cards in the new set. It is a level 2. It is an insect. It wants to be a crawler so badly, but it is a water attribute, 200 attack, 2100 defense. Really, really great card. I would almost consider playing 3 of it if it wasn't because I was just trying to keep the deck count small. This deck is 41 cards, which I feel is, or I'm sorry, I think it's 42 cards. 41, 42. Either way, I wanted to keep the deck count small. But if you control a ninja card or a face down defense position monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So she's a free extender, whether you control a ninja or a face down card. Then when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can target a face down defense monster you control, change it to face up defense, and if you do, change her to face down defense. And if the card you change face up was a ninja, except herself, you negate the opponent's activated effect. So she's pretty much a convoluted monster effect negator. However, even if the card you flip face up is not a ninja, your opponent's effect won't be negated, but she's still like a quick effect like Book of Taiyu. She can like flip stuff face up during the opponent's turn at quick effect speed, which allows you to trigger certain flip effects during their turn to disrupt them, which is, I think is really, really great overall. And then her just being a free extender and a level 2 insect helps you make some of the crawler links and other exceeds if you decide to play them. So really, really strong card. Then we're on 1 copy of Baku the Beast Ninja. Again, another new card out of the Darkwing Blast set. He's a wind, level 3 beast, effect monster, 1500 attack, 600 defense. We play one of him because he's kind of like a Garnet. You want to search this card off of Hanzo, and the reason for that is because if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it. Then if this card is special summoned or flipped face up, you can target a ninja or a ninjutsu art card from your graveyard or that's face up in your spell trap zone and return it to the hand. So he just like again recurs resources from your graveyard usually to help keep your game going mid to late game. And then moving on to the last monster lineup is a hand trap. We played triple copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. I think Ghost Bell is really strong in this format, especially now that we have Tier Element with their new support out of Darkwing Blast running around. You still have sprites, you know, abusing the living hell out of Elf. So just Ghost Bell is a really, really great card to help disrupt your opponent's graveyard shenanigans, which is pretty cool. But that's it for the monsters. Now we're moving into the spells. Triple copies of the Krawler field spell, World Legacy and Shadow. This field spell is actually not that bad. Pretty much all crawlers on the field gain a 300 attack and defense buff. So, I mean, whatever, that's marginal attack increase, nothing too crazy. But once per turn, you get to special summon a level 2 or lower insect monster from your hand in face up or face down defense position. So it helps you summon another crawler monster for pretty much free. And then, what's crazy about this card is when your flip monster is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard. Non-target, non-destruction removal on this card. And it doesn't even have to be triggered by the opponent's attack. It just says when your flip monster is destroyed by battle. So you can even take one of your flips and literally just crash it into one of your opponent's cards. And because your flip was destroyed by battle, this field spell will send that opponent's monster to grave. Non-target, non-destruction. So really, really strong removal on this field spell. So we play 3 of it for that reason. Also, it helps make your opponent think twice about attacking into our face downs. Because at that point, they really won't know whether it's a crawler or a ninja. And it's like if they take that bet, they can easily lose their card, even if it's like one of their boss monsters. As long as it can be sent to grave, the field spell will send it. But anyway, we have 2 copies of World Legacy Survivor. This is a really cool World Legacy spell. What it does is it allows you to excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you add an excavated Krawler monster or World Legacy card to your hand, then send the remaining cards to grave. Otherwise, if you didn't excavate anything, you will shuffle all excavated cards into the deck. And then for the rest of the turn, you are locked into Link monsters. You can't special summon from the extra deck except for Link summons. So really cool card, helps you dig deeper into your deck and helps you add either Crawlers or World Legacy stuff to your hand. Then we're on 1 copy of World Legacy Succession, pretty much Monster Reborn, as long as you can summon a monster to a zone of Link monster points too. Then we're on triple copies of Soul and Luna. This is a really strong spell that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. It's a quick play spell. Pretty much you target a monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls as cost, then apply the following effect on each monster depending on its battle position. If it's face up, change it to face down defense, and if it's face down, change it to face up defense. So this is like Book of Moon and Book of Taiyu in 1 card on a quick play spell. You can easily disrupt your opponent with this by booking their monsters face down, preventing them from either A, using their effects, or B, using them as material for summons. Or you can also use this to flip your monsters face up while they're down to trigger their flip effects on your opponent's turn. Or you can even also use it to flip them face up. That way, let's say your opponent tried to go like Lightning Storm, for example, or like Raigeki, I guess Lightning Storm's a bad example. If they try to like break your board with like some kind of removal spell, you can, and your Crawlers are face down, you can go Soul and Luna to flip them up. Since this is quick effect, the changes all backwards, so at the time of their destruction, they're face up, and then they trigger their float effects. Either way, Soul and Luna is really strong, even going second. Like, you can easily set a card, activate Soul and Luna, flip yours up, and then flip their card down, and it's definitely going to bait some kind of negate, or they get their card booked. So, really, really strong, especially for going second. Then we're on 2 copies of Terrors in the Hidden City. This is a brand new continuous spell out of Darkwing Blast. Really, really strong for anybody playing some kind of like flip or control deck of the sort that specializes in setting monsters face down. Pretty much your opponent cannot target face down defense position monsters I control with card effects. So any face down defense monsters I control cannot be targeted by any of the opponent's card effects. Then, monsters I control that were flipped face up while this card was face up on the field, gain 1500 attack and defense while they're flipped. So that's a huge attack increase. Pretty much like, you can set a Krawler Spine, for example. He's got 2100 defense naturally. If you flip Krawler Spine face up, or it was battled into, for example, it's also still treated as being flipped. He gains 1500 attack and defense, literally making him a 3400 defense monster, which is just nuts. So just to give you an example, like you can easily make some of your cards really, really beefy. And while this card in its owner's spell trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can also target a monster in your graveyard and special summon it in face down defense position. So this card is just really, really strong. Gives you protection from targeting. Stat increases a lot of your monsters, and if your opponent deals with it, it's a monster reborn for anything out of your graveyard, as long as it can be set in face down defense. Then we're on 1 copy of the original Rhoda, just because some of your ninjas you play are warriors, specifically Hanzo and Kagero, so you can just search them with this from deck to hand. Then we're on 2 copies of Ninjutsu Art Tool Iron Digger, brand new card again out of Darkwing Blast. It's an equip spell. It says the equipped monster gains 500 attack. Also, it is treated as a ninja monster. Then it says you can only use the following effects once per turn. You can banish a ninja from your graveyard to target a card in the field and destroy it. So this is a pretty nice removal. Keep in mind you can equip this to an opponent's monster. Doesn't say that you can't, which is really fun. And then if this card is sent from field to grave, you can target one of your banished ninja monsters and either add it to your hand or special summon it in face down defense. So really great card for removal and also recursion. Then we're on 1 copy of Ninjutsu Art Notebook of Mystery, a brand new card again. Quick play spell. It says if your opponent controls a card, any card, you can set up to 1 ninja monster and up to 1 Ninjutsu Art spell trap, except a copy of itself, to your side of the field. These cards come from your deck and or graveyard, but only 1 can come from each. Then if the set card on the field is sent to the graveyard, I can target a face-up monster in the field and change it to face-down defense. So we play just 1 of this card because your opponent does have to control a card in order for this thing to be used. So it's usually only good when you're going second. But pretty much it allows you to set a Ninjutsu Art and a ninja monster from the deck and graveyard, but only one of the cards can come from each place. But you don't have to set Both. It says up to 1. So you can set a ninjutsu art, like let's say you have nothing in grave. Like let's say your opponent impermed you, right? They technically control a card on field. So since this is a quick play spell, you can activate this since they control a card, and you can still set either a ninjutsu art or a ninja monster from your deck to the side of the field. Which is, I think, is really cool. So as a 1-of, this card's nice, kind of a pseudo searcher. Then moving into the traps, we're on 2 World Legacy Pawns, 1 World Legacy's Mind Meld. Pawns is nice. This allows you to either Book of Moon or Book of Taiyu your monsters, and it can also let you shuffle back your Krawler monsters from the graveyard back into your deck as well. Very, very strong card. You can only use 1 effect per turn, only once that turn, so that's kind of a bummer, but it's still a very strong card nonetheless. And then Mind Meld, it's funny, we play it as a 1-of. The first effect you're seldom going to be able to use, and that effect is when an opponent's monster activates its effect. While we control a Krawler monster, the activated effect becomes return 1 face-up monster your opponent controls to the hand. So that might sound a little weird. So basically what happens is if you control a Krawler and you have this card set face down, when they activate their monster effect, assuming this Krawler is the only card you control, you can activate this, and their activated effect, whatever it was, becomes return 1 monster I control to the hand. So they have to bounce my Krawler back to my hand. And remember what I said about Krawlers, when they're removed from the field while they're face up, they trigger the effect to special summon 2 more Krawlers from deck. So that's how that effect is supposed to work. But the graveyard effect is really why we use it. And that grave effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard to then target a link monster on the field and special summon a Krawler from your hand, deck, or graveyard to your zone that target points to in face down defense position. So that's also really cool. So that's why we just play the 1 of that. And then for the last 2 traps in the deck, we're on 1 copy each, 1 ninjutsu art of Shadow Sealing and 1 ninjutsu art of Dancing Leaves. Shadow Sealing, they're both continuous continuous traps, but Shadow Sealing says you tribute a ninja to target a monster your opponent controls, banish that target, so this is pretty much removal. And then Ninjutsu Art of Dancing Leaves is the new one out of the most recent set. You activate this card by targeting a ninja monster or a face-down defense monster on the field. And if you do, you special summon a ninja monster from your deck. So this is like removal. You basically like target a ninja or any face-down monster on the field. You tribute it, and then you special summon a ninja from deck. It has another effect, but it's seldom going to be used. But overall, that's going to wrap up the main deck, guys. Now we're going to jump into the the extra deck here. We're on 1 copy of Maizen, the Battle Ninja, brand new out of Darkwing Blast. It's a level 6 Dark Warrior Fusion monster, 2500 attack, 1500 defense. Requires 2 ninja monsters with different types. You can either fusion summon the card or special summon it from your extra deck by tributing the above cards you control. So it's a contact fuse, pretty much. Then your ninja monsters can attack directly, so that's pretty cool. It just adds another win condition for the deck, because if you have a lot of ninjas on field, they can just start attacking your opponent directly, bypassing whatever they have in their field. Then, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you get to special summon a ninja monster from your deck in face up or face down defense position. So that's really strong too. And then the last effect is your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks as long as they control a face down defense position monster. So Maizen's really, really great to help, push through boards and whatnot. Then we're on 1 copy of Ninja Grandmaster Saizo. This card was skyrocketing to the moon in price. Luckily, the new OTS pack did announce a reprint for it, so hopefully the price has calmed down. But it's a Link 2 requiring 2 ninja monsters specifically. During your main phase, you can set a ninjutsu art spell trap directly from your deck to your side of the field. Then, while this card points to a monster or monsters, this card cannot be targeted for an attack. Also, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. So, very annoying card for your opponent to get around if set up properly. Then moving into the Krawler links, 1 Quailiarch, 1 Yorgos, 1 Synaptis. These cards are very easy to make in the deck, and they actually can utilize their full effects, since this deck is quite good at link climbing. Pretty much they all do different things out there on the field. Like Krawler monsters, these 2.2 can't be destroyed by battle, and they gain 300 attack and defense. Any Krawler monster that this is pointing to can attack up to 2 times during the battle phase, and then any Krawler monster that this card is pointing to inflicts double battle damage to your opponent. And then they all 3 of them, if they're destroyed by battle or card effect, they can special summon 2 Krawler monsters from the graveyard and to the field and face down defense. Quailiarch's the only weird one. He requires 2 crawlers specifically to be made, but he gains effects depending on the number of crawlers you control on field. So he can buff the attack of all monsters on the field by 300 attack and defense, or he can opponent's cards and effects won't be activated during the battle phase, and then also if you control 6 or more, the opponent's monsters can attack directly. You're seldom going to use that. Mainly you summon this card just to help it. If they remove it, it floats into crawlers and can marginally buff the stats of certain things. But overall, they're still pretty good to be played as one-ofs. We're on 2 copies of Lib, the World Key Blade Master. One of the best links in the deck, hands down. It can only be link summoned while you have a World Legacy card engraved, so keep that in mind. But while she's on the field, during your main phase, you can set a World Legacy spell trap directly from your deck to your field, and then if this card is sent to the graveyard as link material, you get to shuffle 1 card in the field into the deck, non-target, so she can remove tons of threats. Then we're on also the Earth Charmer, IP Masquerena to follow that up, and talking about abusing sprites, we are also on a copy of Sprite Elf. Just because pretty much everything we play in the deck for the most part is level 2. So Elf really shines here. Also just helps us float into more things in Masquerena well as Masquerena. Then we're on 1 copy of Subterra Behemoth Fiendus. Something you don't really see played often. It requires 2 flip monsters specifically, but it can Foolish Burial flip from deck to grave to allow you to special summon a flip monster from your hand and face down defense. And then when a monster is flipped, when a monster he points to is flipped, you can add a flip monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So 1 copy of him, really nice as a utility. Then we're on 1 Seraphim Papillion as a link 3, along with 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. We can go into these off of cards like IP Masquerena, or once we start link climbing and whatnot. Very strong cards. Papillion is just like a Monster Reborn, and then Unicorn is, well, he targets a card and shuffles it in the deck. Then we're on 1 Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax and 1 copy of Access Code Talker for our boss monsters in the extra deck. Probably 2 of the best link 4s the game has to offer right now. So overall, that's it for the extra deck, guys. We'll jump through the side deck briefly before we wrap things up. We're on triple Nib in the side. The reason why we side deck Nib, because I'm still trying to figure out if Nib is even good this format, but what's cool about Nib with this deck specifically is Nib only tributes face-up monsters. A lot of your cards like to be face down, so if you activate Nib and your cards are face down, only your opponent's stuff's going to be tributed. So that's pretty cool interaction. Then we're on 1 copy of Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju. This is the level 9 monster that I said that we can search off of the Deus X-Crawler if it happens to be destroyed, because it's a level 9 light thunder monster specifically. So I just thought that was kind of cool that we can side deck a Kaiju that we can search if Deus X-Crawler is actually outed by your opponent. You get to search a Kaiju and then make them cry because they outed your skill drain on legs. But then we're on triple copies of Lightning Storm just to help facilitate going second. Obviously, we're on triple Galaxy Cyclone. This is mainly in here because of that World Legacy card that we run. It lets us excavate stuff, so if we excavate like the cards like these just become free spell trap removal out of the graveyard. Then we are also on 3 copies of Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. This is a brand new World Legacy Premier trap out of Darkwing Blast, and this card is the nuts. Pretty much it's not once per turn, it's a normal trap. Change as many monsters on the field as possible to face down defense position. Then, if either player controls the face-up monsters, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So it's a Book of Moon for the entire board, and then any monsters that remain face-up, like, links or cards that are unaffected, it forces the opponent or the player to send those cards to grave. Non-target, non-destruction removal, insane card. So we're siding it. We can side into this, games 2 or 3, and then easily punish the opponent. And then for the last 2 cards in the side is 2 Lost Winds. Again, we play this for the same reason we play the Galaxy Cyclone, because with that World Legacy spell that we run, if we excavate these and the opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, Lost Winds allow us to reset themselves from grave to field and just become pretty much like effect negations that are permanent along with an attack reduction. So that is it for the Ninja Crawler deck, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that profile. Stay tuned on the channel, because now that Darkwing Blast is out, I picked up a ton of cards from that set already, and I'm going to be bringing you guys some very, very cool deck profiles but including my update to Mutant Goatee. So using the brand new support out of Darkwing Blast. But with that being said, guys, leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Ninja Crawler deck. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already.